Hello, welcome to my second episode from Read Out Loud podcast. Today we will talk about why designers shouldn't code and why they should study business. This is an article for envisionapp.com blog, and the other article is called When It Is Okay to Say No to a Client, and it's from Milo.co. Let's go with this one first. When is it okay to say no to a client? It happened to me. I wanted to say no to a project badly. I was running through a list of excuses in my mind, even having slight nightmares about this project. There was just something inside me that kept me from wanting to take part of this project. It was a feeling of dread and foreboding. It's the feeling when you know that you and your client are not going to see eye to eye in significant measures down the road. The problem was I had already done some work for this client. I had completed an assessment for this client, even though after the first complimentary meeting I already had bad feelings. That's where I had gone wrong, and that was my fault. For some of us, it goes even further than that. We're deep into a project with a client and we just don't want to be a part of it anymore. You can call it creative differences or whatever you want, but I'm going to give you a few steps for avoiding having to find a desperate way to cut the cord from a project you no longer want or need. Number 1. Determine the value of the project. Is the profit worth the stress? Oftentimes, if we're dreading a project, it's because we don't know when things are going to get to be too much for being compensated too little. As creatives, a lot of us often undersell ourselves in the first place, but the first thing we should be asking ourselves before we even consider signing onto a project is, does this amount truly make sense? Number 2. Decide if you and the client are on the same page. We all know those clients, the type that don't seem to really understand anything we are saying, or do understand but don't really want to understand because they already consider themselves the true expert at hand. My advice? Abort mission. These people always end up a lot more trouble than they are worth. If you simply have to work with them, make sure you're charging much more than you normally would on a project. This will help you still make the profit you need to on the project despite it not being the most enjoyable. Number 3. Select pieces for your portfolio. Your client should be happy with the final outcome, but at the end of the day, we still have to do our jobs in a way that we feel is correct. The best case scenario, we'd like to proudly put the work in our portfolios. Envision this project going into your portfolio. If you don't immediately get excited, you may want to reconsider. Number 4. Listen to how your client talks about other creatives. This could, of course, mean they have had really bad luck and hired some really incompetent designers or creatives. But it could also mean that the problem isn't with the hires, it's with the client themselves. This type of client might just possess every dread rolled into one, and what's worse, when something won't work out right and you've warned them but they insist you to do it anyway, guess who you're going to blame? Yep, you. To sum it up, so we try to use our best judgments, or maybe sometimes we don't. Maybe something about the project really captivated us anyway, so we took it. Or maybe we just really needed the cash. How do you know? Well, there's no easy answer to that question. One good tactic, if you feel you do need to say no, is to say that your schedule is becoming more and more packed, which could and should be true if you're networking for better projects, and that you're unsure if you're able to provide the same high quality standards of services. If they insist that you stay on, you could even boldly ask for more compensation, if there's any fiscal amount that will match the stress of the project, of course. Otherwise, you know what to do for next time. Scrutinize every single thing about that client and project. You're hiring the client as much as they are hiring you. Oh, and make sure you have a great contract with a fantastic exit clause if you seem to get stuck in these situations a lot. This article was by Sabrina Hutchings. Sabrina is a freelance graphic and web designer from Buffalo, New York. Thank you, Sabrina. Moving forward to the designers shouldn't code, they should study business. Let's see what Joshua Taylor has to say. Increasingly, more companies are looking for great design leadership. They're being told that their company needs a bigger focus on design thinking and are keen to adopt more design-centric principles. But over and over, when these companies talk to designers, they hear about craftsmanship, brand consistency, polished design, designers who can code, style guides, prototyping, and testing. The designer's craft. All of those things are good, mandatory even. But for us to truly understand the best way to help a business, we have to start focusing on what makes the business successful. We must first understand business in general. Then we'll better understand where craft is important and where it's excessive. Instead, designers are often seen as people who need to have the important business goals explained to them in the most basic of ways. I think our suggestions about design would carry a lot more weight if we were able to have insightful conversations and offer valuable suggestions about core business principles. Where we are now. Lots of designers out there are starting to think seriously about how their decisions impact their companies. In general, our focus on user research and analytics has helped a ton in giving more credence to the voices of designers. We're also seeing great examples of design-led companies and designers impacting the core of big businesses like Airbnb, Pocket, Facebook, Google, Slack, and loads of others. I would argue that those companies are as successful as they are because they have designers who are focusing more on what those businesses need than on how perfect every pixel will look. Shifting our focus. So, how do we start thinking about designers' impact on business? Maybe it's going all out and getting an MBA. All of the designers I know who've done this are actively contributing to the core of their business. But maybe it's even more simple. Maybe it's talking to the sales team to understand what the market looks like. Maybe it's talking to shipping and fulfillment to understand why orders are always a day late. Maybe it's reading over the Q1 projections and finding out that the key initiatives for the quarter have nothing to do with refactoring our CSS. Maybe it's taking a night class in economics. Or maybe it's just spending the night Googling how fundraising and cap tables work instead of how to use the newest Sketch plugin. Maybe we should be spending our time learning about business principles. How to choose business models, how to manage teams, how to conduct competitive analysis, how to make projections, etc. Maybe we should try to learn about the issues a CEO or VP faces and try to use design to help them solve their problems. Maybe we should try to figure out what keeps them up at night and help them solve their problem instead of ours. The future. I'm not saying we should start shipping poorly designed experiences. We have to keep growing and focusing on craft. If we don't, nobody else will. But let's also start understanding the businesses we work for and what they need in order to grow. If we're able to do that, we will continue to gain more influence and will continue to create products that are more impactful, both for our companies and for the people who use them. I see here this article was originally published on Medium. Thank you, Joshua Taylor. Joshua Taylor is a contract design director working with exciting startups. Thank you for this article. And thank you for listening to me. See you next time. Bye.